I invested 300,000 dirhams in a Dubai company and got a personal check from the owner as security. He did not return my capital, blocked me, and the check bounced due to a signature mismatch. Can I file a pay order case, and how can I recover my money? So what you're referring to is a payment order case, and that is an expedited sort of administrative request to the court that is filed, usually called ex parte, meaning without the services the other side. And these kinds of cases, payment order cases, usually are for type of cases that are called confirmed commercial debt. And obviously a check would be considered a confirmed commercial debt. And so it's a much faster case. It's more administrative case in nature. And so therefore it can be decided under the right circumstances with just a few days. Now, however, so I mean, I guess that is one option, but there's a better option. And that is in the UAE, a bounce check or check is considered an executory instrument in and of itself. So in other words, you don't even need to do a payment order. Because you already have a confirmation of debt by virtue of this check. And then the check, because by law, it's considered to be an executor instrument, meaning you can go and start enforcing it right away. So that's a simple process. It's a cheaper process than a payment order. And since you have this check, I mean, that would be the way for you to do it. But there are a few prerequisites to filing this case. One is that you need to get a letter from the bank stating that the check had bounced. So it's not sufficient just to, for example, have like an SMS that you usually receive from the bank or some kind of a little sort of note from the teller that the check bounced. You actually need a proper letter from the bank stating that such and such check bounced, so that such amount bounced. So you need the letter, one. Two, you actually need to translate the check, and that's even if the check is already sort of in both languages. But what we've seen in practice is the courts do request for the checks to be translated. And then three, you need to be prepared to present the original check. We have seen instructions from the court that be prepared, even though because you submit all your documents online or digital format, so you don't need to physically go and present. But we have seen instructions from the court that they may require the citing of the original check, so you should be prepared. So you should have it at least on file. And then, so these are the documents that you need to present this, to open this case, and then you file straight for enforcement. Now, as part of the enforcement, you have to file, it's a 2%, you have to pay 2% of the amount of the check, or a maximum 5,000 dirhams, or capped at 5,000 dirhams. So it's much cheaper than payment order, which the maximum there is actually I think it's 5%, and it's 40,000 dirhams. So it's a more economical approach and a much faster and more efficient. And then you file straight for enforcement, which basically means as part of enforcement right away you can start freezing, not just freezing, but even seizing the other party's assets, including bank accounts and property and company shares and if there are no sort of liquid assets that you're able to reach quickly, you can also then request a travel ban and ultimately arrest warrant. So in other words, it's basically, think of it as as if you already had a final judgment, final judgment, and then moving for enforcement. So that's basically having a check, a bounce check in your hands, is basically it's akin to an enforcement, having an enforcement proceedings or enforcement case at hand. So that's what I would recommend. And then it may be that the owner of this partner of yours, so to speak, may not be in the country anymore, but because you're filing an enforcement case, and because as a result you can move very fast, you can request disclosure of all of the person's bank accounts, of all the other assets they may own in the UAE, such as real estate assets, company shares, and the boats, cars, and so on and so forth. So there are 4 chances that you may be able to recover something, because you'll be able to freeze those kind of illiquid assets, and then you'll be able to recover something to cover the debt, even if you think, for example, the person is no longer in the country. So certainly worth doing and worth pursuing it.